Hello, my name is Christopher Lefholtz. I'm the Vice President of Development, and this is the Development Group Conversation pre-video slated for June 8th, 2022. As always, we start with what's top of mind, and top of mind has been a very large list of activities as well as initiatives across the development organization. I'm not going to go into all of these, but just to note that there are definitely a lot of things going on, and we've had a very busy past 2 months since ending Q1 and the start of Q2. Development department hiring continues to move along. We've increased our organizational size to 316 folks, and we still have 14 remaining starts in Q2, as well as starting to populate Q3. We're currently at 30 starts for Q2, hoping to get that to 35 before the end of the quarter. We have a few more weeks before the quarter closes out at the end of July, but given the lag associated with hiring to actual starts, it'll be closing out sooner for actual start dates associated with that. We still have many positions open, so we continue to work hard on that. And our goal for Q3 is roughly around the same number, slightly larger. It might be around, I think, closer to 40 to 43 starts associated with that quarter. So, and if we don't achieve these, then we'll have challenges meeting all our objectives. So we're continuing to focus here. And for dev burnout, we continue to maintain a solid close rate to open rate based on what we've seen so far. We have been having trouble closing out the last 5, not those specific 5, because the number turns over and we have some new issues become overdue associated with InfraDev issues. We have a goal of getting this down to 0 by the end of Q2, and it's looking like we'll be close there, maybe not quite to 0. Similarly, on security burn down, we have a similar goal of getting this to close to 0 by the end of Q2, if not to 0. Currently, we have 23 issues past due, but again, our close rates remain strong compared to the open rates for this. Our average age of open positions has risen over the last 3 months. This is pretty typical because I opened a number of positions in early April, and then subsequently the following months was all about hiring for those positions. So you see there, it's definitely down relative to what we saw the drop late in the year as we've been able to ramp the recruiting team. I'm expecting a similar phenomenon come here in either the next couple of weeks or in early July, where we open up several positions, additional positions for basically planning for Q4, and see a similar kind of trend. MR rate continues to be an area of focus. A number of folks have been working on this initiative. There's definitely some macro aspects that we're definitely working through. In particular, we definitely have seen a rise in PTO, and we've also seen an increased focus in InfraDev and security issues. As we've moved off of those, we haven't necessarily returned to the full rate, but we'd like to continue to push towards those higher rates that we saw in both late 2020 as well as in early 2021. Well, that's going to be challenging because of all these things. So because of that, we've set a department goal, a sub-department goal for each director or senior manager to get an increase of 1 MR rate increase. And we're looking at our maintainership to see how we can improve there. And we're also, last but not least, considering moving to overall MR rate, which is more of a calculation that includes both that review time as well as the merge time associated with it. Q1 OKRs, they're kind of a little bit in the rearview mirror, but good to highlight. As far as the great team goes, we did achieve across the board pretty good results associated with being in a great team. Similarly, we had really good results in driving our ARRs across the various aspects of our OKR. And then last but not least, our objective for grow the development team to support the product. That's probably the area we had the most challenge. We still were aspirational and we hit our 70% initiative. However, obviously the MR rate was probably the biggest challenge where we were too aspirational there, and we'll have to think about how we best adjust accordingly as we move into future quarters. Q2 OKRs we're about 1 month in, and we're on track or needs attention for most of these. Most of the needs attention is keeping an eye on them and understanding kind of what's going on associated with them. A particular note, FIPS is probably the biggest one where we're really pushing for predictability over velocity. And because we would like to get that achieved by the end of July, get our 100% complete by the end of July. And this is unusual for us because most times we'll talk about if we miss a milestone, going to the next milestone. This one, we're really trying to get it in all in prior to that for the audits, as well as to keep the FedRAMP program from potentially making the FIPS compliance the critical bottleneck to success of that effort. In improving the product, a couple of initiatives are definitely on track, and a couple of initiatives that we need to work on. Of note, the maintainers looks to be challenging to add 15 folks. We're seeing that a number of folks are farther behind than we thought in the maintainership. So we're looking at that and seeing how many we actually can convert and how we potentially best adjust. Another topic that is in there is should we also be including maintainers of specific repos beyond the major repos, because that is also becoming a necessary component of maintainership is a number of the sub repos that go associated with being part of product. And then in Great Team, we're on track for both those activities, though both of those activities have, and hiring we've started and definitely are moving along in that, though we're actually ahead of that in regards to the fact that we are 6 weeks into the quarter, at the start of the quarter. And then mid-year check-ins were basically kicking off effectively tomorrow, June 8th. As always, development is a interesting spot to be in the company because we have several pressures that come against us. We are involved in many of the top cross-functional initiatives. While we don't directly DRI any of these initiatives, we do obviously support these initiatives through both normal product prioritization as well as special considerations around that. In particular, I want to highlight that particularly for FIPS, we're focusing on predictability over efficiency. This is opposite of our overall strategy, and we'll do that in these cases where the business outcomes are really justifying that behavior, because we want to make sure we hit those business objectives for the company. Rate limits across the DevOps platform continues to be moving along. We're basically looking at how we best update the handbook to talk about rate limits, and then architecture working group is developing a blueprint for this so that we can talk about how we best think about this. This hopefully gives appropriate guidance to engineers as we work through this, as well as some tooling to better help them in their efforts so that we make sure that we can effectively limit where we need to control the product in a scalable fashion. In the fulfillment subdepartment, there's been a definite set of migrations that we've done, and we're moving along with a full migration to the Zora orders API. Also, we continue to work on improving our infrastructure since our migration to GCP, as we continue to improve that both on monitoring as well as uptime reports associated with it. And then last but not least that I'll highlight is we've been putting together demos associated with this, and if you're interested in those, please look at those links. They'll show you some of the demos that the team has been working on. This is a way for us to build confidence in that our solutions are scalable as well as workable and usable for these efforts. Growth models, ops, and sec teams are all working on various different aspects of improving. In particular, the sec section has been working on OKRs to increase the ARR for the secure stage. This is important because that's mostly for our ultimate customers, which is one of our fastest growing areas of revenue. So it's really exciting to see those activities going on. We're also working on looking at adoption, dogfooding the secure stage features. In fact, looking in particular at turning on scanning across all our different repos as part of products so that we have proper coverage. And there are a lot of them to do. This morning I looked and I think there were roughly 200 still left to be done. So we got a lot of work there to do associated with that. Growth is continuing to plan experiments to drive primary actions for the billing pages in order to increase our ARR. And last but not least, we're working on cross-functional prioritization framework across the quad so that we can roll that out here in the next several weeks. The thought process here is that we had engineering allocations late last year or early this year that we used to effectively look at prioritization. Now we're looking at how we better formalize a better prioritization framework to help with those efforts and make sure the right things are happening. In the enablement department, the biggest two biggest activities we're talking about, and there's a lot, is decomposition. We're effectively in the final phases of rolling out that functionality to production. Super excited to see that because that'll help with our scalability challenges and addressing some of those, as well as FIPS compliance, which I mentioned earlier, has been kind of top of mind and is one of our top 12 initiatives. We also are looking at the Ruby 3 upgrade, and we continue to get a green pipe, or very close, I should say, not continue, but very close to getting a green pipeline. And we're excited to have that, as well as potentially moving to supporting that upgrade. And then last but not least, from a highlights perspective, is the Ops Sub department. Observability is also planning to roll out to production here in the next several weeks for enabling air tracking tracing on top of the ClickHouse, which is super exciting to see that. The package team has also successfully completed their migration of 1.65 million repositories. That is a lot of repositories, and that's to the new container registry architecture. So we're excited to see that success associated with it. And as you can see, there are several other things that I didn't highlight in all these areas. Please feel free to read through them and understand them. That's it for the pre-video call. I welcome now questions from the team as well as in the agenda document if folks aren't able to attend and want to ask me questions async. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.